A disease that claims more lives than all forms of cancer combined has set its sights on a particular group of people. News 13's Victoria Dunkle is streaming live in Hendersonville. And Vic, we're actually talking about heart disease in women.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the entire month of February is devoted to heart disease awareness, but this week in particular is focusing on us women and how we need to be really paying attention to just how serious this disease can be. And the interesting thing about that, as I talked to cardiologist Dr. Cyril Abrams here at Park Ridge Health Cardiology, we were talking about how it doesn't have to be a frightening thing to think about, but it is serious and it needs our attention, right?
That's right, Victoria. It's really a thing that women are far better knowing what's going on than not knowing what's going on. Very, very important. And there's really nothing to be afraid of. I think not knowing might be scarier.
I think you might be right. So let's take a little bit of the fear factor away from folks. If I'm coming in and I want to kind of even just get a baseline on how my heart health is, what are some of the tests, what are some of the things that I'm going to be facing?
Well, naturally, we need to sit down and talk about what you're feeling, or hopefully what you're not feeling. And then basic things are done. Blood pressure is a good start.
All right, let's see how we're doing here. You're going to do this. This doesn't hurt, folks. I mean, most of us have had our blood pressure taken before. You want me to sit down?
Sure, please.
Okay, this is typically what we do is we sit down. What about some of the other equipment behind me? I see exercise equipment here. You do some things like stress tests here?
Yes. Actually, we're in the cardiac rehabilitation section here, and this is for people who have had some issues, but we do have stress testing equipment that includes a treadmill and electrocardiographic equipment. We do other testing that becomes a little bit more complex as we go, but early on there's no real need to do any of that sort of thing.
Just because I'm going to have you check out my heart doesn't mean I have to go through this huge battery of tests.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Blood tests might be important as well. As well as some other basic things, perhaps a basic electrocardiogram. That doesn't hurt either.
I see. It doesn't hurt a bit. He's going to check out my blood pressure, and then we're also going to take a look at some other symptoms that can be signs and signals that you need to come in and see Dr. Abrams or your cardiologist or even your primary care physician. It's a starting point that could truly save your life. Coming up, we're going to be following all kinds of information for you this morning when it comes to women's heart health. Live in Hendersonville, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
Today's health alert shows a little heart for the women in our lives.
News 13's Victoria Dunkle is streaming live from Park Ridge Health Cardiology. And Vic, heart disease is actually the #1 killer of women. So how do we change that?
Well, you do things like what I'm doing right here. This is a preliminary stress test that the doctor sometimes will order, especially if you maybe have a history of heart problems in your family, right, Dr. Abrams?
That's absolutely correct. This is a basic treadmill test.
Okay, so what I'm going to be doing, they've hooked me up to some of the leads. Normally there'd be a lot more, but we're just giving you a basic idea here. What does this tell you about my ticker?
It tells us how well your heart rate goes up when you exercise. It also can tell us if there are any changes in the pattern when you exercise.
Okay. So you would adjust this, we'd have different levels?
Yes.
I'd go faster at times, slower at times?
Mostly faster.
Okay.
Usually, just when you want to slow down, we make you go faster. But that's to put your heart under stress. That is, get your heart rate up and blood pressure up.
And this lets you know how my heart, which is a super big muscle in our bodies, it does so much work for us, how it's doing its job, right?
That's right.
What happens if I have something that kind of alerts you on that?
Well, if that happens, we have to review it. There are certainly a lot of different causes. We might ask you to do a slightly more advanced test, perhaps with some pictures, sound wave test or nuclear testing. But this is an excellent jumping off point for people. Have to be careful with women sometimes. Occasionally they have funny tests when nothing funny is really going on.
Oh, we like to keep you on your toes, Doc. That's just all we're doing.
Absolutely.
And coming up in our next half hour, we're going to take a look at some other ways that we can really take a leading role when it comes to our heart health, especially us women. It's killing 1 out of every 4 deaths of women in this country is because of heart disease. Live in Hendersonville, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
This morning, we are dedicating our health alerts to heart health, specifically the heart health of women.
Let's go back out live to News 13's Victoria Dunkle. And Vic, the last time you took the stress test, so what's our focus this time?
Well, the focus this time is finding out exactly what things like regular screenings can do for us. This time we are talking to Dr. Joseph DeSantola. I hope I got that right.
You did. Thank
you
you.
work with a lot of people who are trying to get a handle on their heart health. We were talking specifically, what are some of the symptoms that especially women need to know about?
It's a good question because many individuals think about chest pain as something they should worry about. But all individuals, but especially women, often have symptoms that are different than just chest pain. They might experience things like arm or shoulder pain, upper back pain. Many women experience only fatigue or shortness of breath, difficulty breathing during unusual activities that didn't make them short of breath.
So we really need to know what our bodies are about and what is a normal function of our body. And then when something changes, like we become a little more tired for some reason and can't explain why we don't have any energy, then that would be a time to say, hey, we need to check this out.
That's right.
Now, there was something else we were talking about, too, risk factors. A lot of women kind of just, they don't take them as seriously as we should.
Well, that's right. And women don't appreciate how serious and how common heart disease is compared to other things that they worry about. More than a third of women will die of heart disease. It's a stunning number. In fact, 5 times more women will die of heart attacks alone and breast cancer.
Really?
And another heart disease, a common heart disease, heart failure, will kill 4 times more women every year than breast cancer. It's a very common problem, and there are risk factors that we can identify that help women reduce their chance of dying of these things.
What are 3 things today that I might be doing that I can eliminate that will up my chances of not becoming a victim of heart disease?
Great question. I talk to all my patients about this. You shouldn't smoke. Even a little bit of smoking dramatically increases the risk of sudden death and heart attacks.
Okay.
You should exercise regularly.
Okay.
We'd like folks to get at least 30 minutes of good aerobic exercise at least 3 or 4 days a week, preferably every day.
Quickly, the last one?
And weight. Weight is a huge issue. More than doubles the risk of heart disease.
Wow, this is a lot of great information. And if you want more details and maybe want to establish a good relationship with your cardiologist, we have a link for that to Park Ridge Cardiology at WLOS.com. Click on news links, and they can get you started down the path to a healthy heart. Coming up in our next half hour, we're going to talk to a woman who was surprised to find out that she has heart disease. That's coming up in our next half hour. Live in Hendersonville, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.
In today's Health Alert, we are focusing on women and their hearts. News 13's Victoria Dunkle is streaming live from Hendersonville.
And Victoria, this time you have someone with a message for women who don't think they need to worry about this.
Absolutely. I'm actually talking to Joy Connor here, who actually is a silent heart attack victim. For us girls, for women, it really can come on us with no symptoms, can it? How did this happen with you?
Well, I would be outside playing with my granddaughters, Tegan and AJ, and I would notice that my legs would burn a lot, and I'm just talking going like 40, 50 feet, and something was wrong, and I thought it would go away. And also, when I would be playing with them, I would be like running and not very hard, and I would be like out of breath, you know, just a few minutes. And it continued for months. And
then you went to your primary care doctor.
Yes, I did.
And that same day, you went. What happened in that? Can you walk us through quickly that quick appointment?
Yes, I went to her just thinking. My sons kept fussing at me to go, and I kept putting it off. And she wanted me to come up, you know, and I did. I went and did a test for her, Dr. Sue Shelton, and she came back in and she says, Joy, you know, I thought I was going to get an inhaler, just something to help my breathing, because my only symptoms were my legs and my breathing. And she says, Joy, I think you may have had a heart attack. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. And she immediately recommended Dr. DeSantola for me to get up here. And I did, thinking the same thing. He's just going to write me a prescription because I was just total fatigue, or my legs were burning and without a breath. And after I came in and had my appointment, within an hour he came back in, and I just thought he was going to tell me I needed a prescription. I was totally wrong. He came to me and he says, Joy, you have had a heart attack at some point.
And how crucial was it for her to get to her doctor and then to you quickly?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. If she hadn't gotten to Sue Shelton when she did and gotten over and gotten care, Joy easily could have had much more serious problems and might not be here.
And that's the importance of this. And now you exercise regularly. You've adjusted a few of your daily habits.
Yes.
And she is living proof of why we need to listen to our bodies. If those legs are hurting, if we're feeling fatigued, if we're not sure, just go see your doctor. It may not always be as serious as what happened to Joy, but knowing is the key. Reporting live in Hendersonville, Victoria Dunkle, News 13.